So I'll be recording the session now. So if you would, again, just stay on mute. And if you prefer not to be in the video, then by all means you can switch off your webcams if you so wish. So without further ado, I will pass over to Carla Stanton, to introduce and proceed with the webinar.
Thanks, Tuan. Thanks very much. Hello, everybody. It's really great to see so many of you joining us for our session this morning. As Tuan has mentioned, my name is Carla. I'm the regional manager within the international team at the University of Gloucestershire, and I cover the South Asia region. So I'm working very closely with Gus and Inuni in the South Asia region. I'm really pleased to be joined today by some of my colleagues from our School of Natural and Social Sciences. And these are Professor Philip Toms, Dr. Julia Webb, Dr. Rachel Bennett, and Professor Anne Goodenough. They're going to talk to you today for about 40 minutes or so about the school itself, and also we're going to highlight some of our really exciting courses that we offer within the school and give you a taste of what it's like to be a student within the School of Natural and Social Sciences. So we'll leave 10 minutes hopefully at the end for a few questions, but I'll also put our email addresses in the chat, so if you have any follow-up questions you can just contact us directly. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Phil, who's going to give you a quick introduction to the school. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, Tuan, if you could start sharing the presentation, please.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen right now for you.
Okay, yeah, so welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're going to talk you through some of the courses that we have available to you guys. We have 3 courses that we're going to focus on today, 3 courses that traditionally appeal to international recruits. And then I'll be handing over to my colleagues to take you through those individual courses. But just by way of introduction, if we could go to the next slide, please, Tuan. So a virtual welcome to Francis Close Hall campus, which is the campus where I'm talking to you from today. It's based in Cheltenham, which is just north of Bristol, just south of Birmingham, to the west of London. And this is the first campus of the university. It was built in 1847, and we've been teaching courses related to environmental sciences, courses that we're going to be talking about today, in one form or another since that point. So next slide, please, Tuan. So Tuan, yes, if you can just tap through on these points. So as Carla outlined, we're in the School of Natural and Social Sciences, and we're organised into 3 groups within that particular school. So next points, please, Tuan. Thank you. So we're based in the Environmental Sciences group, but we also have a Social Sciences group and a Psychological Sciences group. And Tuan, if you could just tap away a few times and reveal the courses. So we have BA Human Geography here, BA International Relations. Then we have bioscience courses in animal biology, in biology, and next one should be biomedical science. And then we have a branch between kind of the physical geography, the earth science topics that we study in bioscience, in ecology and environmental science. And we have geography, and we have the MSc in Applied Ecology, so a postgraduate course in Applied Ecology. So although it says environmental sciences on the tin, as it were, it's a very broad church. But despite the differences, the obvious differences in those courses, they have some key shared and defining characteristics. So next slide, please, Tuan. Okay, and on to the first point, please. So the kind of defining characteristics that are shared in common between all of those courses is that they are highly ranked in the Guardian University Subject League Table. Now, given the international audience today, the significance of the Guardian University League Table in Britain is that it's one that's very focused on on students. It's less focused on what the staff are doing beyond when they're not talking to the students. So this is a subject league table which in the UK is very important to students because it's entirely focused on what they're going to get out of their degree rather than what the staff get out of the degree. What we have are very small class sizes here. Relatively speaking, if you go to a major city or a major coastal university on any of these disciplines, you're likely to be in a class with 100 to 200 students. In some cases, if you go to certain institutions, you can have up to 800 students in your class. Here at the University of Gloucestershire, the kind of defining characteristic is that our focus is on very small class sizes. Okay, so our typical class sizes are 20 to 30 students in the first year, but that diminishes and reduces to about 10 students to 15 students as you get into years 2 and 3 and you begin to specialize at undergraduate level. The same is true at postgraduate level, where we have relatively small class sizes akin to those at undergraduate level. We have therefore really excellent staff-student ratios, and therefore this idea that students often ask about contact time, and contact time varies depending on the degree that you're studying, the name of the degree that you're studying. But if you compare the same degree course across different universities, then what you have here is effectively the same number of contact hours between those courses at different universities. And the fact that you're spending that time in smaller class sizes means that I think we offer a higher quality contact time here. Next point, please, Tuan. And another virtue of those small class sizes is that we can do more than just exams. And I don't know if I'm letting you into a secret, but exams are fabulous when you have large student numbers to assess, because exams are actually much easier to assess than a piece of coursework that a student has poured their heart and soul into over the course of 12 weeks. And it's that small class size approach which gives us that flexibility to focus on coursework. And there's a really good reason to focus on coursework. It gives us a way to measure the full range of abilities that employers are interested in. Unless you go into certain careers such as accounting or law, you're unlikely to ever take an exam again. So we're largely focused on these courses in trying to wean you off or tease you away from exams. So when you join us, you'll note that there are very few exams and that we are mostly coursework focused so that we can measure the full spectrum of your abilities rather than that singular ability just to remember information and get it down on paper relatively quickly. Next point, Tuan. So other things that our students really like here are the fact that we offer long-term and short-term placements. So you can register at undergraduate level for a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree. If you go for a 4-year degree, it is a year-long placement in year 3. So you spend year 1 and 2 in academic study, then you spend year 3 on industrial placement, and we have a large number of kind of public and private sector partners within that. In that year 3, you're spending that year on placement, and then you return for your final year of study with us. Okay, but if you elect to do the standard 3-year undergraduate degree, we also have credit-bearing short-term placements that we can offer you. So those short-term placements last up to 10 days. Well, they last 10 days, and they operate in years 2 and 3 of the degree. And the advantage of the short-term placements, of course, relative to the year-long placement, is that you're able to sample a range of different careers. So, if you're uncertain about what career you want to go into, this course offers lots of opportunities for you to try different flavors of careers so that you get a sense of what you might be interested in when you leave university. And so these are credit bearing, so they all contribute. It's not just that you're getting experience, they all contribute to the credit towards your degree. So they are part of your degree, and the marks count towards your degree. And because of all of this, these small class sizes, our focus on coursework, our focus on getting our students good jobs, we have really consistent high levels of student satisfaction in national surveys. So, for example, if you look at the Guardian league table, and in 2020 we ranked it by overall satisfaction, we were #1 in the UK when it came to our geography courses for overall student satisfaction. And that's out of about 80 different universities that offer that degree. So we've got really good, consistently high levels of student satisfaction, and they are, as I say, super consistent. We are ranked, we get student overall satisfaction levels of about 90 to 100%, and that hasn't changed over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. Next point, Tuan, please. So what we're ending up with is not only some very satisfied students, but we're also ending up with good levels of graduate outcomes. And in the UK, graduate outcomes is a term that the government are now using to define those that go on to graduate level careers or graduate level study. And so the outcomes in the environmental sciences group across these courses are really good. We have about 75% of our students going on to graduate level careers within 18 months of leaving university. Okay, next slide, please, Tuan. Okay, so within this range of courses that we offer, there are some that appeal to international students more than others. There are certain disciplines that tend not to travel as well across international borders. The ones, all of these courses recruit international students in at some level or another. But if you just click along, Tuan, we'll see the three that have the most international recruits at the moment. Okay, so these are BA International Relations and BSc Biomedical Science, but also the postgraduate qualification, either a postgraduate certificate or a diploma or a full master's in applied ecology. These are the ones that tend to appeal to international students at the moment. If you just click on the next slide then, please, Tuan. So, and click through to the first point, please. So what we have in terms of origins from where our students come from on these courses, for BA International Relations, it's probably the one that has the most diverse range of recruits. It's in terms of where the students originate from, okay? If we then click through, please, Tuan, onto biomedical science, a limited range, a limited geography here, if you like. But you can see that we've got Hong Kong, India, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates that are where students are mainly interested in joining our BSc Biomedical Science course. And then our geography widens slightly again when we talk about the Applied Ecology course here at postgraduate level, from Bangladesh through to India, all the way through to Pakistan and the USA. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Rachel Bennett, and she's going to take you through the first of those courses. Very briefly, we're going to talk about international relations and see what that involves. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Phil. If we could just go on to the next slide. So yes, as Phil mentioned, this part of the presentation is about the International Relations course, and I'm the course leader for this programme. We'll pop onto the next slide. Broadly, this programme is potentially a subject not many people have studied before coming to university, and often students find out about international relations when they are researching what they might do. So Just in case anyone's not familiar with the discipline, it's about trying to understand the international political system, look at policy and decision making at an international level, and focus on issues that go beyond national borders. So that could be things like human rights, climate change, migration, conflict, all those issues that we know we can't solve as individual countries. And as such, students on our international relations degree get a really broad range of knowledge that's really relevant to our current socio-political landscape. And alongside that breadth of knowledge, you're developing skills in a whole host of different areas, from things like data analysis using specialist software, through to practical skills for diplomacy like intercultural awareness and consensus building. And as such, our students are well prepared to go on to a whole host of different career paths. Often there's an aspiration to work particularly with international organisations like the United Nations, and international relations is an excellent degree option for that sort of career, but it also sets you up for careers in government, whether that be with diplomacy, security and intelligence services, roles in national and international charities and advocacy organisations, but also in the private sector in global businesses and businesses with headquarters in more than one country, as well as military careers. And some students also go on to specialise, for example, in law. They'll go on to train as a human rights lawyer. So it's a discipline that definitely doesn't narrow your choices in terms of what you can do with it, but it's really interested in global issues and international issues. Can I have the next slide, please? In terms of what our degree looks like here at Gloucestershire, we're focused on 4 main academic themes that reflect the research expertise of our staff. And these are politics and governance, global social justice, conflict and development, and globalisation and crime. What I have up on the slide here is a table showing the different modules organised into those themes. You can see that in the first year, there are a smaller number of modules that are very introductory, and everybody takes the same modules in the first year and gets a broad overview of the discipline. But then as you go into second and third year, you have more choice over which modules you take. And that's where Phil was saying the class sizes get smaller because people specialise in their particular interests. And so sometimes our students will decide to specialise in a particular theme and take modules from particular themes, or it's possible to mix and match and take modules from different themes across the 3 years. And then alongside our modules that are focused on those academic themes, we also have the ones in the second half of that table, which are really focused on skill development. So each year there's a module relating to skills in research and analysis, and that builds up to the dissertation in the third year, which is a chance to conduct an independent project on a topic of your own choosing. We also have an applied international relations theme, and there we're really trying to develop skills for the real world of international relations. So what skills do diplomats need? How can we relate what we're studying in the academic modules to what's actually going on in current and global affairs at the time? And also skills relating to professional development and work experience. Head on to the next slide. Have a few defining characteristics of our international relations course in particular. And these are that we have a contemporary focus. So we've deliberately designed the programme to focus on the post-1945 period, and we're interested in issues that we see as the big challenges currently and likely to be the big challenges through the 21st century in the international system. And we're also very fortunate to be able to draw on expertise from across the university. So as well as our core international relations team, we draw on experts from different disciplines. So our law department come in for modules on international and human rights law. Our specialist environmental research institute teach on politics of environmental change. and our social science department contribute to modules relating to global crime and issues of global social justice. We're also a deliberately global programme, so it's not that we specialise just in one or two regions and only really talk about research from those parts of the world. We deliberately use case studies, theories, scholarship that emerge from all across the world regions. And we have a very practical and applied focus. So throughout the course, we're interested in ways to apply the theoretical and conceptual knowledge that we develop on the course. And we do that through things like simulations of international political crises, where we ask students to take on the role of a particular country or organisation in a political crisis and work with other countries' representatives to try and resolve an issue. And that really deepens the more theoretical understanding that we get from the other modules. And then as Phil mentioned, we have these small class sizes and accessible staff. And what that means for international relations is that whereas at a bigger university, you might sit in a lecture with several hundred students one day, and then maybe 3 or 4 days later be timetabled for a seminar with a smaller group of students and a tutor where you can discuss the material in more depth. Because we have the smaller class sizes, we can integrate that seminar style teaching throughout all our teaching sessions. So there's always an opportunity to be discussing and debating the content as you learn. Could have the next slide, please. So also opportunities to get off campus. In the first year, we head up to London and do a visit to key political institutions to explore the UK's role in international relations. And in particular, we visit Parliament, link up with the Member of Parliament for Cheltenham and do a question and answer with him about how the UK is interacting with the rest of the world. And then in the second year, there's an option to take part in an international field trip where you go and explore issues in a particular context in more depth. And currently we offer trips to Geneva to look at global governance. We visit the United Nations, but also non-governmental organisations like the Red Cross, and also to the Western Cape in South Africa, where we explore issues around inequality in development and the legacy of apartheid. Next slide, please. And alongside those visits to explore international relations out in the real world, we also have this professional development designed into the course. So throughout the 3 years, you'll get specialist careers advice coming into sessions. And as Phil mentioned earlier, there's an option to take slightly less taught modules and to take part in short-term work placements in order to get a flavour of work in different areas. And then next slide, please. Just also to mention opportunities beyond the course at the university. Our international relations students tend to be very active in the Students' Union. So there is currently an International Relations Society, which is run for and by our students, and it's an opportunity to get to know the others on the course socially. Also an International Cafe Society, which is for international students across the whole university, and is a chance to get to know people from other countries and get together. And at the moment, the president of that society is also one of the international relations students, and it's a very popular society with our course. And then also often our students are interested in getting involved in social and political causes local to Gloucestershire while they're with us at the university. And so there are societies relating to that. And in particular, lots of our students are involved with the Refugee Support Society, which works with community organisations in Gloucestershire, supporting asylum seekers and refugees in the area. And it's a really great way to get to know the community beyond the university. And then one final slide from me on international relations, which just has a bit of advice on applications. So as I said before, it's probably not something many students have directly studied before. So it's not that we're looking for particular subject combinations, but what is great to demonstrate through the personal statement is an interest in international affairs and global issues, and an aptitude for a discipline that's going to require you to discuss and debate the big global issues. So that could be through something you've studied in another subject like history, or it could be just something in the news that's really interested you, and extracurricular activities, so volunteering experience, or actually for international applicants, just talking about the very decision to pursue a degree overseas is a great way of showing an interest in international relations. And that's it for me, and I think handing over to Julia Webb to talk about biomedical science.
Thanks, Rachel. Yes, Twan, I've tried something different. I've just requested control. I don't know whether that means that I will be able to advance my slides myself now. By the looks of my screen, I think I can.
Yes.
So I'm the course leader. They might work it easier for you. I'm the course leader for our biology courses at the University of Gloucestershire, and specifically our biomedical science course. And biomedical science is that sort of subdivision of biology that deals with human health. So everything that you might associate with perhaps medical professions behind the scenes. So not that patient-facing role, but rather a role that deals with perhaps the medical laboratory side and biochemical testing and microbiology, sort of behind the scenes of diagnosis. Twan, it's not giving me access to advance my slides. If you could pop on to the next one, please. Thank you. Thanks. So our course is deliberately set up to meet the industry needs. So what does the biomedical industry need? It needs graduates that are highly skilled, that have all the theoretical background knowledge, that are well placed to be able to step straight into graduate roles. And in the UK, we have our course aligned with the Institute of Biomedical Sciences. And that's a global institution. If you could just pop back to one, thank you. And that is an international institution that forms an allegiance between all of these different industries involved with biomedical science. So whether that's hospital laboratories, research facilities, food safety, universities, and it provides guidance for the sorts of modules and training that our students need. Twan, could you reverse one slide, please? Thank you. And as such, our course is aligned with the IBMS and will be accredited to the IBMS shortly. Now, in the guidance that the IBMS give for training, it ensures that the industry needs are met. And we have our students graduate with the ability to be able to register straight away with the Health and Care Professions Council, and that's a registration within the UK. There is a need to understand the Indian links for employment with such a degree, but I imagine it's very similar to the situation in the UK. So the skills that our students gain to be able to work in hospital pathology labs, so those are labs such as biochemistry, microbiology, hematology, cellular pathology, genetics, and to be able to work in those labs, you need to demonstrate your skills. And one big difference that I've noticed this year in speaking to our international students from India is that the education in India tends to be very theoretical, whereas here we have our students working in simulations that they would meet in employment. So whether that's working directly in the healthcare settings, in research settings, in food safety, medical toxicology, they are gaining those hands-on experiences to be able to then walk into their career and use their skills directly in their employment. And that's a big step change for our international students. And so within an application, we would really like to see that there is an aptitude for science. So you, in chemistry or biology, and an understanding and a desire to work within the field and gain these skills. These are the sort of applied skills needed for work in hospital laboratories, in biomedical facilities. Tuan, could you pop on to the next slide, please? Thanks. And so we need to give you a grounding in biomedical science and what that means. And just like Rachel was saying with the international relations course, all of our first year modules are compulsory. As you move into the second year and the third year, there's far more optionality. So our first year really sets the scene for university learning, for studying within academia, for gaining experience within the laboratory. And you can see our first year modules in that first column on the left. And then as you progress into level 5, the modules that are in bold are the compulsory modules. And then you see the modules that don't have the bold text, those are optional modules. So we have the modules that align with the needs of the Institute of Biomedical Science. And then we have what we feel is quite unique to our course. We have these opportunities for placement. And these are placements within biomedical sciences fields. We have one student currently working with a company called Coveyance, and she's working within toxicology and understanding certain drug influences on human DNA. And those experiences are fantastic accolades on a CV ready for employment. So really gaining those real world experiences. We also have a more entrepreneurial module whereby students will be able to work directly with a company within the pharmaceutical industry and work really problem solving real world issues. So dealing with perhaps understanding more about vaccine hesitancy or the role of medicines in female menopause. So really working with hands-on problems that are live within various different companies that our students work with. And that really gains them that experience that employers are really looking for. Heading into level 6, you see that there are just 3 compulsory modules, giving you fantastic option to tailor your course in the direction that you would like to go for your employment. The main module that I want to talk to you about there is that research project, which is the dissertation. It's sort of the capstone of your time at university, where you get to undertake a project. And some of our projects we will provide students with. So if you're not sure what sort of project you could do, then we can offer some projects. But a lot of our students really take that on board and have ideas of their own, and an opportunity that we provide to be able to develop their own ideas. And of course, we give you help from a supervisor, and you will be able to undertake your project within a laboratory setting. And so some examples of projects that have run in the past One project was looking at the influence of dietary iron on colorectal cancer cells. Other projects look at antibiotic resistance, so a huge important field, and projects on vaccine hesitancy. Could you advance the slide, please, Tuan? And just like the course in international relations, we do have a 3 or a 4-year course. If you take the 3-year course, you follow the route that I just described on the previous slide. But in the 4-year course, sandwiched between the second year and the final year, so within your 3rd year of a 4-year course, there's the opportunity for a placement. And that placement in industry can be in the UK or within your home country. And the idea there is that you are spending that time gaining skills in an industry that you want to be part of. So within the UK, we have our national health system. We may have students who are placed within those pathology labs within hospitals, working perhaps directly within the haematology department, understanding blood science. We have a placement team that help you find placements, but as with a lot of university learning, the reliance is on your independence in exploring options and finding placement opportunities. But of course, there's plenty of help there for you if needed. Tuan, could you pop on to our next slide? Thank you. Some exciting news within our bioscience area at the university is we have some fantastic new facilities that are currently being built. They're going to be opening in September, ready for our new intake of students. We have these facilities so that we have this wonderful laboratory that you can see our architect's design on the screen here. So that we can do that group-based learning, but we also have a range of smaller laboratories that have been set up to mimic research and hospital facilities so that you really are in those settings and using the same equipment and gaining the same skills that you will need for work after you graduate. Then just pop on to our last slide for me, thanks Tuan, which is thinking about career pathways, so the sorts of roles that our students go on to do. And this image here is Maddie, one of our students who went on to work within food safety in a local company, specifically on microbiology and food safety. As I mentioned on the first slide, graduates from our course can register as biomedical scientists, and that opens up a full range of roles to them within these pathology laboratories. But there's also options for working within the pharmaceutical industry, and I guess that in India that's a real growing market. I've mentioned toxicology, but also thinking about research and development into new drugs. In the UK, we have a system for medical laboratory assistants, MLAs, working within our National Health Service. There's lots of opportunities for medical research, and of course, you can step into teaching as well. So lots of opportunities through from a biomedical science degree. Thank you, Tuan. If you could pop on to the next slide and I'll hand over to Anne, who's going to talk about our postgraduate course. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So the MSc Applied Ecology course is a little bit different from the courses that you've heard about so far in biomedical sciences and international relations, because this is a master's level course rather than a bachelor's level course. So it's postgraduate rather than undergraduate. Next slide, please, Tuan. So we actually have 3 different types of award that we offer within the Applied Ecology postgraduate course group. And all of these are accredited by the Institute of Environmental Sciences, and all of them are at the same academic level. The difference between them is effectively how big the course that you take actually is. We've got a postgraduate certificate whereby you would take 60 taught credits from a choice of 90. So you do have some optionality in there to be able to tailor the particular course that you're interested in to your specific interests and your career aspirations. That's effectively 1/3 of a taught master's course. We then have a postgraduate diploma where you would take 120 taught credits from a choice of 150. That's effectively 2/3 of a taught master's course. And then we have the full master's itself, whereby you would take 120 taught credits from a choice of 150, and then a 60 credit dissertation as well, giving you a total of 180 credits overall. The vast majority of students who study with us do register and complete the full master's course, but I just wanted to highlight that there are a couple of smaller options in the mix as well, and it is entirely possible and very easy for students to register for one particular course and then change when they are actually a student with us. So for example, if you're not entirely sure that this is the way you want to go, it would be possible, for example, to register for a postgraduate certificate, start the course, find that actually this is the sort of thing that really interests you and motivates you, and then ultimately change onto the diploma or the full master's. So you can move up or down between those different types of award. The main thing I'm going to focus on though in talking to you is that full master's course. Next slide, please. Within the course, there are no compulsory modules other than the dissertation if you are a full master's student. But we do sort of, again, separate these out into themes. And the vast majority of students who study the full master's will take all of what we refer to as the core ecology modules. And these are the modules that are absolutely fundamental to you ultimately working as an applied ecologist, particularly within the remit of ecological or environmental consultancy, working in government departments, or working in the non-governmental or charity sectors. And they very much allow you to develop not only important knowledge, but also crucially important skills. And the whole course is incredibly applied. Within those core ecology modules, you've got practical ecological methods, which is very much your toolbox module, where you learn all sorts of different industry standard ecological techniques that are used worldwide. So although you might be studying in a UK context, a lot of those generic methods are utilised in countries worldwide. And then you've got other modules in, for example, ecological interactions, field ecology, and applied conservation as well. So as I say, highly applied, and a lot of this being taught in the field rather than in the classroom. Most people take all 4 of those modules, and then they choose 2 of the blue modules that are around the edge at the top of this schematic. And these are maybe more in the remit of environmental modules. They overlap with ecology, but they also allow you to develop new skills and to take your particular interests and aspirations in new directions, be that in terms of policy in regards to the environmental governance and decision-making module, thinking about liaising with and working with people and stakeholders in citizen science, or in terms of mapping and the planning system when it comes to fundamentals of geographical information systems, which is essentially powerful computer-based mapping and advanced spatial analysis. So some optionality there within the modules, but also a huge amount of optionality within the modules as well, particularly when it comes to assessments. So this is a much more specific overall course than you heard about, for example, in international relations. There's still a very high level of flexibility and customizability when it comes to exactly what you focus on, particularly in terms of the assessment. Speaking about the assessment, we have 100% coursework when it comes to the MSc Applied Ecology course. So you aren't doing any exams at all in this particular course. We think that's much better, as Phil was alluding to right at the beginning of today's session, really making sure that you are able to show the skills that you've developed in addition to the knowledge that you've developed. And certainly when we were putting this course together, we very much thought about what people would need at the end of this process. In other words, what people would need when they were graduating to become immediately employable within the sector. And we developed modules that allow people to ensure that they have not only got those skills, but they've been able to demonstrate those skills in particular assessments that they can then take to potential employers and say, this is the sort of thing that I've been doing. This is the sort of thing I'm capable of being able to produce. At the end of the day, it's very unusual if you go to a job interview for you to be asked what you know. You're going to be asked what you can do. And we've tailored the entire course and the assessment to allowing you to be able to demonstrate that. Next slide, please.
Hi, Anne, sorry, can I think your microphone is cutting in and out a little bit, so you're sort of louder and quieter at times. So
okay, I will try plugging in an external.
That's great. Yeah, you're fine at the moment. It just drifts in and out a little bit.
Is that a little bit better?
That sounds good. Yeah, Anne.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Carla. So in terms of the course ethos then, as I've alluded to going through the modules, it's a really applied course throughout. We spend a lot of time out in the field. In fact, some of our modules are exclusively taught in the field. So you'll be spending a lot of time not only learning about industry standard techniques, but actually practicing them and really developing a high degree of competence in using those key industry standard methods. We've got lots of opportunity for field work, not only in the UK, but also beyond. We take a field course out to South Africa each year to allow you to get to grips with a whole range of different species and habitats, and I'll say more about that in just a moment. But we also have options, for example, through the dissertation module and the field ecology module, where you are able to build your own experiences in the field overseas. So, for example, we've had students doing projects in South Africa, in the Seychelles, in Portugal, the USA, Canada, and really making sure that they are understanding different ecologies, different ways of working, and tailoring the course to ultimately where they want to end up and what they want to end up doing. So really key for employability, and as I say, they're in any country. Next slide, please. We've got really close links with industry partners right the way through the course. And that means that rather than us teaching you in a very academic way, you learn firsthand from practitioners. So you learn firsthand from people who are actually out there undertaking ecological surveying work, monitoring, management and conservation, so that you gain really good understanding of not how it should work, but how it actually does work on the ground. That involves us going out to sites and liaising with industry partners in the field, but it also involves guest speakers on modules as well. And a lot of the assignments that we set require you to be working on real world and often live project briefs. So in other words, you are producing work where there is a genuine need for that work to be produced. You're actually working on something with, for example, a local conservation charity that really, really needs that particular project being done. So it's not just us creating an assignment because we need to assess you. It's you actually doing something that is of tangible benefit to biodiversity, ecology and conservation, and also being assessed on it as you go. And of course, this is also great in terms of employability, because you will have worked with people in industry and know people as you're starting to apply for jobs. Dissertation project opportunities are basically, the world is your oyster on this, literally and metaphorically. You can be working on projects in the UK or abroad. You can be working on projects that are very research focused, or projects that are much more linked into consultancy or conservation practitioner work. And I mentioned earlier on the South Africa field trip option. We've got a picture there of some students out in the field a couple of years ago now who spent quite a lot of time looking at rhino and rhino behaviour and conservation and all of the threats to that particular species out in South Africa. So we go out in May each year, and the postgraduate students do a group-based project out there, which again is something that is really needed and greatly valued by the host reserve that we visit. And ultimately we try and get that written up as an academic journal article. So the students that come out on this trip usually end their master's degree with not only a master's degree, but also a published piece of work in their name as well, which is absolutely great in terms of applying for jobs, because it shows that you're capable of working at that really high level. Next slide, please, which is my final slide. I'm conscious of time on this one. Career pathways. I've mentioned some of these as we go through, but probably about 50% or so of our students will ultimately go into ecological or environmental consultancy. And they might be doing surveys on protected species. They might be working in environmental or ecological assessment, so environmental impact assessment, strategic environment assessment, cost benefit analysis, that kind of consultancy-based practice. And again, that's something that occurs worldwide, and the systems that you use for those kind of assessments are generally fairly generic. Some of the policy in the legislation is obviously country specific, but the overall approach is very, very generic. So coming to the UK to do this kind of course does stand you in very good stead when it comes to becoming employable, not just in the UK, but beyond. The next biggest slice in terms of where our graduates end up is going into direct conservation practice and policy. So, for example, working with non-governmental organisations or charities, working within the government in terms of environmental policy, enforcement of environmental policy, putting in place government schemes to help, for example, farmers or landowners be able to juggle the competing demands of earning a living and supporting the environment and the wildlife that uses that. And really, really broad one, but effectively becoming nature reserve wardens, rangers, or managers. So all of those are very, very focused on conservation practice and policy. We also have students that end up going into ecological or environmental research, and quite a noticeable number of our students actually do go on to study for PhDs within this kind of area as well, or looking at environmental or ecological education, either within the sort of the school environment, so more formal education settings, or outside of that, working with, again, conservation charities or environmental organisations to work with the members of the public or visitors to a particular site and engage, enthuse and inspire people about the world around us. That's it from me on applied ecology. So I'll now hand back to Phil for the final bit, and next slide, if you please, Tuan.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. Thanks, Rachel and Jules. Yeah, so that concludes the presentation. So you've heard a bit about the environmental sciences subject community here. 3 of the courses that we offer that appeal regularly to our international audience. So what I'll be doing now is I'll hand back to Tuan, and I think we've got a little bit of time for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Professor Philip Toms, and thank you to colleagues at the University of Gloucestershire for that very informative and insightful presentation.